If I said to you, movie title, Trick or Treat, I think most people would instantly think of the one from 2007. Not the one from 1986, which is the one that I found for today, which happens to be a heavy metal musical horror, which I did not know that I needed to watch until I accidentally stumbled across it when browsing through IMDb. So thanks IMDb for this one, I guess. While I do listen to some metal music, it is a little bit more niche in its tastes, I'll say. I listen to things like Ailstorm, who are pirate metal, or Windrose, who are dwarven metal, and if you have never heard the song Diggy Diggy Hole from Windrose, do yourselves a favour, because it will make you want to go and hang out with the dwarves from The Hobbit and go and dig holes in mountains. Like, it's such a fun song. But if you don't know anything about Trick or Treat from 1986, let me quickly fill you in. Trick or Treat from 1986 is a heavy metal musical horror. A bullied teenage boy is devastated after the death of his heavy metal idol, Sammy Kerr, but as Halloween night approaches, he discovers that he may be the only one who can stop Sammy from making a satanic comeback from beyond the grave. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, but as always, when it comes to watching movies that I have never seen before, I am now going to go and watch Trick or Treat from 1986 off camera. So that way, if you too decide that you want to watch the heavy metal musical horror movie starring Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne, nothing will be spoilt for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie that you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, and I keep it spoiler free here on my channel because nobody, and I mean nobody, likes spoilers.
So it's actually a musical?
When I say this is a musical, do not panic and think that people are randomly bursting into song and tap dancing down streets. Like, that's not what this is. This is a fictional band with lead singer Sammy Kerr do the entire soundtrack for this. It's very like if you've ever played GTA Vice City, the band Love Fist, because Love Fist are kind of everywhere in GTA and you hear their songs on the radio if you happen to listen to V-Rock. And this band sounds an awful lot like Motley Crue, so don't worry, it's not going to be West Side Story with heavy metal. Eddie, our teenage hero, is so likeable, and the dictionary definition of an underdog that you just want to root for, because he's so relatable. If you've ever been bullied as a teenager, you will completely relate to this guy. His bullies are like the kids of the parents who think that, you know, rock music is gonna completely corrupt the generation, but they're not actually parenting their own kids, who are like the scum of the school. It's that kind of setup. And then you throw in the fact that he loves this heavy metal band more than absolutely anything, which makes it even more relatable to me personally when he hears the news that his idol has passed away. Because if you didn't know, my idol when I was a kid was China from WWE, who happened to pass away in 2016. So I relate to that, but I did not feel the need to rip all of my posters and artwork off the wall and have a tantrum about it. So each to their own, I suppose. They do say that you should never meet your idols, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that if your idol decides using satanic magic and the powers of your sound system to come back to life in your bedroom, that might be just a little bit out of your hands.
Okay, gang, let's split up and search for clues.
Roger, though, the best friend, is about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Like, he is completely useless. If Eddie is the dictionary definition of an underdog, Roger is the dictionary definition of a absolutely useless friend who does not listen to anything that he's asked. Like, he's just sort of there because nobody else is friends with him. There are actually 2 big music name cameos within this as well, which I have to point out. The first one is obviously Gene Simmons, who is the lead singer of the band Kiss. He was actually offered the part, though, to play Sammy Kerr and turned it down to play the cameo of the DJ in this DJ Nuke, because it was then a tribute to DJ Wolfman Jack, who was actually Gene Simmons' real actual idol growing up, which I think is such a cute little cameo. Like, no thank you, I don't want to be the big heavy metal singer, which everybody knows me for. I'm gonna do something that's a little bit more meaningful. But the second cameo in this is actually Ozzy Osbourne, and if you blink in this, you will miss him. Like, that's how quick his cameo in this. But I have to mention them because I honestly think that this just goes that a little bit above and beyond when it comes to casting in this movie. The fact that they were so aware of who the audience was going to be for this movie, they decided to try and get these cameos in the first place. Just, Yeah, I have to give credit for it. The main plot though in this revolves around Sammy Kerr's unreleased album and the fact that if you play it backwards, it contains subliminal messaging, which is actually a real life reference to rumours that were going around back in the 80s to do with multiple rock bands and artists, because satanic panic was a thing, and you know, the parents are out here saying, you know, this.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
This technique is known as backmasking, and it involves encoding subliminal messages into the track that can only be heard when it is played backwards. And this technique has actually been around since the 1960s. And some great popular examples of this would be things like the song Snowblinded by Styx, Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, and even Al Snow's entrance music back when he was in the WWE, because the psychotic menace that was Al Snow and Head actually has a message in his entrance music. A big part of this horror is in the supernatural side of it after Eddie first listens to the record backwards. This means then that a lot of the things that happen to people around Eddie has no control over, and it is of course Sammy Kerr doing his thing from beyond the grave. And this all builds up to a much later part in the plot, which I am not going to spoil. The CGI in this is fine. It's your classic sort of 80s CGI. There's some good practical effects in this as well, and at one point there's even a puppet, and you do not want to be the girl in the car listening to the headphones at the time, because nope, and more nope. There are a lot of pyro effects in this, there's lots of sparkage, but would it be an 80s movie that was paying homage to 80s metal and 80s rock music if there wasn't massive pyro and lots of fire and explosions and all of this? No, it wouldn't. And all of this continues to build throughout the entire movie, and let's just say there's so much pyro and so much fire and so much electricity. It's bordering at one point when the fog effects come in on like a hair metal tribute act.
We're not a cover band, we're a tribute band.
The soundtrack though does a really good job of just consistently being there in the background, keeping the vibes going, but also managing to complement what is happening on screen really well. It's supposed to all be entirely sung by the fictional band that is fronted by Sammy Kerr in this, but in reality it is actually performed by the real life band Fastway, which was formed by the former guitarist of Motorhead, Eddie Clarke, and the former bassist for UFO, Pete Way. So yes, real band out there for anybody that actually likes 80s music. If you do like 80s music, you're going to like the soundtrack for this. It's very like Motley Crue as well. That's the other thing that I can describe it as. If you like the Shout at the Devil album by Motley Crue, or anything up to like Girls, 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 you will like the soundtrack. I do think though that this movie goes on for just too long, and you could have very easily wrapped all of this movie up in an hour and 25 minutes, but instead it went on for an hour and 37 minutes. Like, once we had the entire scene at the high school with the Halloween party, because yes, this movie also happens to be a Halloween movie, like, I was like, are we wrapping this up soon? Like, how long are we going to keep going with this one? And it kept going for an additional 13 minutes. And I had no idea at that point how we were actually going to wrap this up. So yes, this movie just goes on for a bit too long for my liking. In the end, I am actually going to give Trick or Treat from 1986 a 3 out of 5 stars. I think that Eddie is adorable and he's really likable. I think that the soundtrack and the fashion is great. Anything with that much neon lights and that big hair is always going to appeal to me. Like, I may be a 90s girly, but I do like an 80s fashion moment. But it just goes on for a bit too long. And the longer that the plot went on, the less interested I was actually in finding out how the hell this movie was going to wrap up. And I won't lie about that. Like, do I think that this movie could be shorter and a bit snappier towards the end? Yeah, that last 20 minutes is a drag. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my first time watching Trick or Treat from 1986. If you've also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on it down in the comment section down below. Or if you would be interested in watching this movie, I will leave a link to justwatch.com like I always do in my description bar, so you can find out where it is streaming in your country. If you would like to know where else you can find me though, I am also over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, where I've watched over 170 horror movies so far this year, so there is plenty that I haven't spoken about right here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, I'll be back on Monday with another solo movie review, and this time it is the final movie that I revealed back in August that I will be watching throughout September and November, and hopefully when you see what the movie is, you will understand why I have decided to wait and save this one till the end, because recent events happened and I did not want to come across like I was using the death of somebody as a way to try and increase my channel views, because that is not me and that will never be me. So as a mark of respect, I have decided to push this one to as late as possible, but I am still going to watch the movie. So until next time, bye.